Welcome back to Nate the Hate, and once again we have our favorite mate, MVG, to join us in a discussion about the Nintendo Direct, or the lack thereof a Nintendo Direct, and the obsession that the Nintendo community seems to have with Nintendo Directs. And this seems to be a development that's only occurred in the last about 7 to 8 months, basically since last Direct that occurred in September 2019. And this is a topic we've mulled over for a few days now. So welcome, MVG, once again.
It's been 167 days, Nate. I did my math before we started the show, and 167 days. What is going on? What are we going to do? What's happening?
It's a true tragedy. It's a drought that seems to have no well in the area. Like, we have to find that oasis of Nintendo information, and it's really been a shame that they've released games like Luigi's Mansion 3 and Pokemon and a Pokemon expansion pack and Fire Emblem DLC, all within those 167 days. But man, people are right. Nintendo's just been silent this entire time.
So let's start it with the low-hanging fruit here. So Animal Crossing, right? It's coming out very, very soon. The Direct for the Animal Crossing was just announced earlier today at the time of recording this. So do we not believe that Nintendo's main focus right now is Animal Crossing and making sure that gets all the attention that it absolutely deserves, because it's going to sell probably about 15 million copies all said and done. So they are basically just focusing on that and that alone at this time, which is 100% fine. It's a massive title for them. It's one that has a lot of people excited, a lot of people interested, and a lot of fans of the game very curious about what they're going to bring to the Direct. And hopefully it will address some of the concerns that the game has had, as far as issues with, that we hear about things about the save files and not being able to, convert your save files over. So why wouldn't Nintendo focus on Animal Crossing and move everything that is up and coming to after the Animal Crossing stuff is done, where they can really focus on the big game that's very important to them in the first part of this year?
See, exactly. And I've said it on Twitter, I've said it on forums, I believe I've even said it on the Spawncast, is that Nintendo's focus for this first 3 months of 2020 is and has been Animal Crossing. And yeah, they were silent up till pretty much today about the game, because they were waiting to host a Animal Crossing focused Direct. And we're getting that on Thursday. And they have a lot to answer for. They have to explain the save situation. They need to detail, just various aspects of the game. Like we saw the ESRB leak about, in-game transactions and the possibility of downloadable content. So that'll be something I would expect them to detail in the Direct later this week. But it's smart for them to focus on their major end of their fiscal year release.
Absolutely.
And there was no reason for them to obsess about games coming out in May, June, and July this early in the year, when they have a game as monumental as Animal Crossing. And what I've seen is a lot of people try to make the argument of, well, I don't care about Animal Crossing, so I need to know what is beyond that. And, that's a fine stance for a personal stance. But when you view it from a business standpoint, Nintendo isn't that concerned with you. They're concerned with the 15 to 20 million player base that is going to buy into Animal Crossing New Horizons. They want to cater to them. Like, after that Direct airs on Thursday, what Nintendo's goal is going to be is pre-orders. They want those people to go to the eShop and do a digital pre-order. They want them to go to GameStop, Best Buy, Target, Amazon, place a pre-order. They want to get that final wave of momentum before release, because it comes out March 20th. So we have it's actually exactly a month from the Direct airing to the release of the game. 1 month. Perfect amount of marketing time. They're going to get that last wave of momentum. They're going to generate hype leading to release. And then it's very likely that a major focus for Nintendo at PAX East next week is going to be hands-on demos of Animal Crossing, where the public is going to play the game. They're going to explore that island. They're going to see all the features we're going to hear about on Thursday, you know, and have hands-on time with that. And it makes sense from a marketing perspective to focus on your major opening year release. But for some reason, the focus for a lot of people shifted. And they said, yeah, Animal Crossing's there. The game is going to sell. But what comes after Animal Crossing? And that main point has baffled me for pretty much the last month.
Well, I think there's a lot of, I'm not going to say a lot, but there are groups of individuals, pockets of individuals, let's say, that don't count a game-specific direct as a real direct. So it's like, well, we already know about this, so this isn't anything new. So let's kind of skip over that and let's talk about the real direct whenever that's coming. And look, you touched on something that I totally agree with, Nate, and I think is 100% on the money, and that is Nintendo doesn't care about Twitter. You know, the average Twitter user
Right.
that's complaining about why is it taking so long for the direct? Why is there dead silence? Why, you know, we need to know something now. We need you guys to release a statement and no BS. To let us know what's going on and give us clear information about what's coming or what may not be coming. They have no, you know, they have no reason to respond to any of that stuff, you know, and nor should they, you know, like when the direct, when it's time for a direct, the direct will come. And I think it's a dangerous game. A lot of these kind of armchair insiders or these armchair analysts out there talking about, well, you know, last year they did one in February, and it doesn't matter when they did one last year. I mean, this year is a brand new year with a new set of, you know, deliverables that they're going to present in due course, and new games that they announce. And look, I mean, I know it's probably not what people want to hear, but at the end of the day, the direct will come when the direct is ready to come. And I think that's really what it comes down to, you know, because it came in February last year, should mean absolutely zero to, you know, to what's coming this year.
Right. And I mean, and that's the thing, everyone, they looked at patterns to say, well, we typically have it in January or February, but like patterns are a great way of, you know, recognition and setting an expectation for yourself to say, well, this is how it's played out in history. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's how things are going to play out in the present or in the future. But you can just kind of set that expectation of, oh, you know, maybe in those first 3 months there'll be a direct because that's what we have typically seen. But you also have to evaluate the software lineup that they had at those times. Like last year, Nintendo's major release in the early portion of 2019 was what? New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. Mm-hmm. And I mean, what was it? A Labo kit in like April or May?
That's right.
So they didn't have that major March release, like the tier of Animal Crossing. I mean, Animal Crossing is a major game. And some people said, well, what if Animal Crossing was originally slated for 2019? What if they didn't delay it to 2020? Would they have changed their plans? Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, a Nintendo Direct it's a Nintendo infomercial.
Yep.
That's all it is. It's a collection of trailers with some announcements for Nintendo to say, this is what we have planned. And it all comes down to timing. And Nintendo makes some weird decisions at times, but when it comes to marketing, they've been on point the entire time when it comes to the Switch. Since the Switch debut trailer way back in October 2016, Nintendo's marketing has been borderline perfected when it comes time to announce and detail Switch products. Last year, we saw it with Ring Fit Adventure. They put out this cryptic, weird teaser trailer of people in their apartment surrounded by friends doing kicks on the floor with this ring in their hand, and people saying, what the hell did I just watch? And then I think it was just about a week later, Nintendo formally announced Ring Fit Adventure, and that game is now, it's selling well in Japan, it's selling well in Europe, it's selling well in America. The marketing was perfect. It piqued your interest. And right now, Nintendo wants to pique the interest of Animal Crossing, and they don't want you to worry about the games coming out in April, May, or June, because they want that $60 that you have available to you today to put down as a pre-order to Animal Crossing. If I show you my lineup in May, June, and July, and let's say it has 1 or 2 big games in it, now I'm competing against myself. I'm still trying to keep your attention on Animal Crossing right now. I don't want you looking forward to those games where you're saying to yourself, ooh, do I get Animal Crossing now, or do I wait 2 months and maybe get that next big release? That doesn't do them any favors. And,
right. And I think, you know, PAX is another thing that's coming up. And, you know, what I heard, what I've been hearing as well is, well, we don't know what they're going to unveil at PAX. But, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the only thing they're really going to focus on at PAX, sure, they'll have some other, you know, sundry things, but Animal Crossing will be front and center, the big focus at PAX as well.
Right, absolutely. I mean, that's where you connect with the consumer. You want them to come to your booth. They want you to play Animal Crossing. And Nintendo in the past, I believe they still do it, you can pre-order a game sometimes at their booth. I know in years past they actually released some games like a week early where you could pick up the game right at their booth. But that's all Nintendo is trying to do right now, is sell you on Animal Crossing. So we have that direct, comes this week. Then after that airs is when we would see a future direct where they would talk about things. And like the timing of that really could be any time between early March to, you know, maybe even the first week of April, depending on what their release schedule is looking like. Because they only really need about 6 weeks of marketing between announcement and release so they can get the pre-orders up and running. I think Japan requires a 30 days advance notice for pre-orders. So if I'm Nintendo, how long do I want to give Animal Crossing its own time to shine before I release another game? Not even necessarily a big game. It could just be a small, like casual type of game, but you probably figure Nintendo would want to give it at least maybe 3 weeks on its own before releasing another game to start their Q1.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you know, Animal Crossing deserves that attention and respect, and Nintendo will absolutely give it to it. I did have a question about the coronavirus. Do you think the coronavirus has any impact on the possible schedule of a up-and-coming direct? Do you think that comes into play at all?
For up-and-coming and future directs, I do think it has the potential to be a factor. And that's because a direct is always put together weeks, months in advance. And as we saw just a few weeks ago, The Outer Worlds has been delayed due to the impacts of the coronavirus in Japan because Virtuos is a Chinese-based developer and they were handling that port. So now if I have games that are being worked on by outsourced companies like Virtuos, even if the company's just doing assets and such, if they're now being impacted by the virus, that could play a role in Nintendo's reaching out to third-party partners saying, we're putting together a direct, and they're saying, oh, well, our original release, like The Outer Worlds, is March or April, and, well, due to the virus now, we have to delay our game. And that would be a lot of work to return to that direct, to edit that release date. So there is even a chance maybe Nintendo was planning a direct, let's say for early March, but due to the impacts of the coronavirus, they may be having to edit out certain sections, or they're waiting to see how things play out before actually, you know, airing the direct, because there's a lot of uncertainty. We're seeing it impact hardware.
Yep.
We're seeing like Japan's going to have shortages. They expect shortages to occur in North America and Europe around the time of April or May, you know, after the Animal Crossing hardware is released, because the Animal Crossing Switch and even the new Coral Pink Switch that they announced today, those were manufactured back in, you know, December, January, prior to basically the coronavirus really impacting the manufacturing and shipping lines in China. And even if Nintendo ships or moves their manufacturing to other countries, China is still a supplier of certain key parts. So they can't bypass the situation as a whole. So I would definitely say moving forward, the coronavirus could impact future direct plans. It's definitely going to impact software releases.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you nailed it. I think with any development house, if there is some risk there of, you know, the virus affecting schedules, then that would potentially, you know, flow onto a direct, because as you said, you know, there's going to be at least some type of, you know, schedule that Nintendo is trying to put together for a direct. And if for whatever reason, you know, development houses can't, you know, come to the table with an appropriate trailer or, you know, a commitment to release, then yeah, that would absolutely impact Nintendo's plans for sure. And I think you certainly can't discount it. You know, as we hear more and more stories about this, you know, of things like this happening in Japan and China, I think the likelihood of, you know, delays like this potentially, you know, will start to occur. And I think the other thing I will say about the coronavirus is, you know, for us folks in North America, we're not really, I mean, we know about the virus, and we know what it is, and we hear about it, but we may not be too, you know, we're probably not too familiar with how widespread this thing actually is, and, you know, what it's actually doing. And I think it's actually quite more significant than what we think. And, you know, it's starting to have an impact on, like you said, hardware manufacturing, and it certainly will start to have an impact on the software side as well, as, you know, companies literally just shutter their doors for a certain amount of time until they, you know, they feel like they're ready to get back to work and start, you know, getting back into what they're working on. And those things will absolutely impact any potential roadmap of schedule that Nintendo may have had, you know, at the start of the year when they planned out their year of releases.
Right, and not to get off the direct topic, but like to retain the topic of the coronavirus, we're seeing that there's some concerns where Chinese attendees are being bumped from GDC. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that shows how significant the coronavirus is impacting the industry, because I mean, GDC is a time for game developers, publishers, and companies to come together, talk about new technology, show some of their new products. And the fact that some Chinese attendance is being, you know, it's being observed, there's some concern where some of these companies are pulling out this late into it due to it. I mean, that shows just how much of an impact the coronavirus is having on the video game industry. So, like, even with the Outer Worlds, I know some people, they speculated, like, oh, maybe Take-Two was using the virus as kind of a scapegoat to the backlash, and that's why they announced the retail version. And, you know, that's really inappropriate speculation.
Absolutely. We both know it was our video that our discussion that we put together a couple of weeks ago that made them change their mind. Right?
That's right. They listened. They're like, damn, they made some good points. We gotta put this on a retail cart.
No, you're absolutely right. It was completely inappropriate to say something like that. And, you know, obviously things are a lot worse than what we think. And for them to turn around and offer a physical release as, you know, as a hey, we're sorry, but please accept this as our, you know, as our apology. I think it shows a lot of really good respect from that company for them to do that. I think that was a really good move on their half to do that. They certainly didn't need to go to that level or to that extent, but the fact that they did, I think, really shows a lot of character for the company.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm very confident that there'd be a lot of consumers who will now pick up the physical release of the Outer Worlds on the Switch due to that level of commitment that Take-Two has shown with that release. So, like, bravo for bringing it there. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing to worry about is the health and the care of the developers at Virtuos in China and Singapore. And thoughts are definitely with them, and hopefully none of them have been impacted, or nor any of their families. And if the game has to be delayed 6 months until they can go back to work and finish the port, then that's how long it takes. And hopefully we don't see anything on Twitter, YouTube, gaming forums getting frustrated or impatient with Take-Two over the delay of the Outer Worlds, because it's a serious situation, and it's not one to take lightly. It's because at the end of the day, it's video games. It's a hobby. It's something to enjoy, but a video game isn't more important than someone's life.
But Nate, these reputable insiders told us that there would be direct in February, or there'd be direct in January, and all these insiders have gotten this information incorrect. So what are we going to do? Where are the games? When's this direct going to happen? You
see, that has been boiling my blood for the last couple of weeks. And you see so many YouTube videos, so many Twitter accounts raging with such anger that there hasn't been a direct yet. And you see there are a lot of unique characters at play in this tragedy of sorts. You have one sector who's bitter and angry there hasn't been a direct. Then you have those who were saying, let's just be patient, a direct will air when it will air. And then you have another extreme of people who are obsessing over when a direct will come. And the middle ground, great, you're being patient, you understand there's more to life than just a video game. And those other two ends of the spectrum, I don't even want to use the word toxic, because it's not an accurate, on one side it's entitlement, and on the other side it's just pure obsession. It's almost, the obsessed remind me of a drug addict, and that's a terrible analogy to use, but it's like they're battling withdrawals right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to go that far in describing something as trivial as a direct, but the reactions we've seen on social media it looks like withdrawal. And yeah, it's been 167 days. Okay, but is there a difference if a direct aired today or if it airs in 2 weeks from now? Does that change your day-to-day life?
Exactly right. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you've got the entitled people that feel like they deserve an explanation for why it's taken so long. Has Nintendo ever come out and made a statement about why Direct didn't come, or why one has taken so long to get here? No. And that's never going to happen. And I think people really need to stop feeling like they're owed something, or something's wrong, or hey, we need to understand what's going on, because the reality is, no, you're not owed anything, and you will never know what's going on. The direct will come and Nintendo will announce it, just like business as usual. They'll announce the games, but they will not sit there and take a moment and say, oh, we're really sorry that this one took so long. They're not going to do that. They're just going to get on with their business of showing what's coming as far as releases go, which is exactly what they should be doing. And I think a lot of people just really need to just take a breath, just relax,
right. Take a step back into the hobby that you supposedly love and actually enjoy it. There are games coming out every week, be it indie, third party. Yes, Nintendo hasn't released their own brand new game in, well, let me look at the calendar here, a month.
Right.
1 month. They've released Tokyo Mirage Sessions in January, but you have people sitting there saying Nintendo's been radio silent since the September Direct, and that's factually untrue. Just in January we had a Pokemon Direct, but I know those don't count. It was game focused just on Pokemon. The same month we had a Smash Brothers event where, yes, they announced Byleth. I get it. Byleth isn't a character for everyone. And they announced a second fighter pack for Smash Brothers. To me, those are two significant pieces of news. A Pokemon expansion, a second fighter pack for Smash Brothers, a new release with Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I get it's a Wii U port, but I mean, frankly, nobody played it on the Wii U anyways. So it was mostly a new release for the majority of people. And then we get into February. They announced, or they released, the Fire Emblem DLC expansion pack. And it's not just like an hour of content. It's about 6 to 8 hours of brand new content, has new characters. Why are people downplaying these 3 to 4 events as being, trivial nothings?
It's a great question. I think at the end of the day, some people want to see more of Breath of the Wild 2, I guess, and then whatever we see from Metroid, if there's anything this year, honestly. I think that's, if I was to speculate, I think they're the two things that people are, looking for more info on.
See, and that's where, is it just that people just want to look for that high? They're not actually interested in what's coming out. They're only interested in what is still to come. And they want to my interests are only in Zelda. So every time there's a direct, Nintendo has to cater to your needs with a new Zelda trailer. I mean, that's unfeasible. And if people are just looking for that always, I need a direct, I need that constant information to get a high so I can feel like, ooh, something new to look forward to. But then when the time comes and the product is out, you're not buying it, or you're no longer looking forward to it. You're looking for your next high. That's disturbing. The consumption of how the media is handled, right now it doesn't seem healthy for a lot of people based on what I've seen on Twitter, game forums, and YouTube. A lot of prominent YouTubers have had extreme reactions to a direct not airing, but it was a direct that was never promised to them. It was a direct that was never announced. So instead of being angry at Nintendo or the lack thereof of a direct, shouldn't you be more focused in on yourself of saying, I set this expectation for a direct to myself. It's not there. You can be disappointed. Being disappointed that there wasn't a direct in early February or even January because you personally thought they would have one just due to their release lineup or the timing of Animal Crossing, you yourself can be personally disappointed. But to go on rants and all this rage, it just seems like a lot of wasted energy that could be used elsewhere.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why I'd be obsessing or getting so angry over something that was never promised to me.
Absolutely. I mean, dude, things have changed so much. I think about, I know I'm showing my age here, and someone's going to call me a boomer in the chat, but whatever. I think about id Software. They always had the classic line, the game will be done when it's ready or when it's done. Don't ask us about release dates. When Quake 3 is ready or when Quake 2 is ready, it'll be ready, and we'll release it then. So just cool your jets, hold your horses. We'll get it out when we feel like getting it out. And I think, man, that whole thing has just been lost in video games for such a long time. Obviously, with publishers involved now, those things don't really come into play anymore. But man, I mean, Nintendo's essentially taking the same line and they're basically, their silence is them saying to us, just hold on. We got this, guys. We got this, and it's coming. But just be patient. We'll get this out to you guys. But just hold tight. We know what we're doing. We've done this for many years. We've made a lot of money as a company. We know exactly how to play this out. And just put your faith in Nintendo. They won't let you down. And I'm sure whatever they decide that they will announce this year is going to be very, very awesome. And I think, and I mentioned this on the Spawncast last week, but at the end of this year, when we kind of review the year, we're going to say, yeah, this year was a slow start, but man, we had some really good games. We're not even going to think about the fact that there was 167 days between directs at the start of the year. That's not even going to be even discussed anymore. And I think that's the way it should be. But I guess the thing is, we shouldn't even really be, you know, so focused on it to begin with. And that's obviously what we're trying, you know, to convey to you guys.
And that's the thing is, like, I don't understand why this focus exists the way it does, because I mean, it seems like Nintendo or any company, they show us a product. We don't even have the time to process said product enough that we can be disappointed or even actually be satisfied with it, because it's announced, you know, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. By 3 o'clock, there's another announcement. So now we're distracted from that previous high with something else that's giving us a new high. And if we're just, and that's social media. Social media is basically an endless cycle of dopamine.
Absolutely.
And I mean, that's vicious. That's a vicious cycle. And that's why every weekend, once my work week is completed on Friday, I unplug on Saturday and Sunday.
Yep, I do the same thing.
I step back and I do something else, you know, go for a walk, go for a run, do yard work. I stay away from the computer. And just that little reboot time, it really does wonders, because, you know, on Monday, you know, I'm back at the computer for work, but I never sit there and say, oh, you know, it's 9 a.m. I got to check to see if a Nintendo Direct was announced today. And then Tuesday, 9 a.m. I got to check if a Nintendo Direct was announced today. Like, I'm not addicted to news having to come out each day. If it comes out, it came out. I'll read about it. I'll think about it. And then I'm moving on. I don't get my high in life from a video game trailer. It's nice to see. I enjoy watching it. I like, you know, getting that excitement over a product I'm looking forward to. But I don't rely on it to, you know, get me through the day.
Yep, totally agree. Yeah, I live the same way as you, Nate. I mean, you know, living in the now is important versus wondering what's coming and kind of feeding off, you know, the future and getting excited about potential things that are coming down the line. You know, I always think about, like, that example where you go see a movie or something and you walk out of there thinking, man, that was a really good movie, and you take some time to kind of just take it all in and enjoy it, versus, oh, that was cool, but now I got to go watch something else, you know what I mean, or whatever comes out, you know, next week or something. You know, living your life that way, I think is and you're right. I think, you know, Twitter does have, and social media does have a big impact on that. You know, they keep feeding us more and more stuff to get excited about. And you're right. I think your comparison to dopamine is a good one. But yeah, man, I mean, I guess the message there is just take a moment, breathe, you know, smell the roses, do something else, unplug. You know, like I said before, I mean, Nintendo, they will come to the table with what they have when they're ready to do so. And, you know, and unless the company goes away physically, then you have nothing to worry about. The directs will be there, you know, and they'll always be there, unless, like I said, unless, you know, they decide to stop making video games and video game hardware.
Yeah, and like, one of the things that, it's been a thought that's crossed my mind, and I've said it kiddingly, like, 2020 won't have any more Nintendo Directs. Like, what would happen? How would people react if that happened? And if we had to go back to the way we used to get news in the early internet era for the video game industry, which was, I mean, we would typically get the big announcements at E3,
yep,
Gamescom, and Tokyo Game Show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the flow of information back then was more limited. I mean, I remember the E3s when they used to happen in May. There were no streams. I'd come home after school at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I would check IGN to say, oh, well, today was the first day of E3. Let me see the news. And they might have like 2 stories up. You wouldn't even see trailers unless they set up a camera in the back of the center where the conference was being held, and they had to film it off screen. There was no direct feed. There was no YouTubes or anything like that. you got information slowly. Instead, gaming has now hit that 24/7 cycle. And I mean, I'm not a fan of it for real world news. When you're constantly being thrown information, you're not actually consuming any of it.
Yep. You see it, you react to it, and then you move on quickly to whatever's next. You know, and I think that's the world that we live in. I mean, directs have been around since what, 2011, I think.
Yep, 2011.
And you're right. I mean, I think they were first introduced to, you know, for Nintendo to kind of move away from the E3 stuff that they no longer wanted to do and kind of move into their own format, which I think at the time was ingenious. But I mean,
oh yeah, but I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you know, video games and Nintendo have been around for a lot longer than we've had directs, and they've done pretty well, you know, for a long time. So I you know, if the direct is something that stays or goes, I mean, I don't see the direct kind of going away, but I mean, no. If it, let's say it did go away, Nate, it wouldn't really make any difference because there would still be ways for Nintendo to communicate, you know, what they're working on.
Yeah, be it via Twitter or just random YouTube trailer drops. I mean, we've seen them do both of those. Like, Nintendo doesn't strictly rely on the directs anymore. It's actually, I'm going to segue into a point that I've been thinking of for a while. I fear that the Nintendo Direct is a great marketing tool. I love how Nintendo uses it, but what I've witnessed, especially probably over the last year, is that it has become the only means in which people consume Nintendo news.
Absolutely.
And by that,
yeah,
and that's not good.
Yeah, like, you're right. I mean, hey, it's Animal Crossing. It's a mini direct. Nope, that doesn't count. It's still officially 167 days. Well, why is that so? Why does an Animal Crossing direct or a Smash Brothers fighter and character, or a fighter reveal, or a Pokemon direct, why don't they count towards, you know, the direct?
Yeah, like, or between, like, even count as Nintendo communicating with fans. And it's even scarier is that, I mean, I've taught every Spawncast I talk about an indie game or third party game that I've been playing over the last week, and each week I read the chat and people saying, I've never heard of that. Like, this week I brought up, I've been playing Metro on the Switch. It comes out later this month, and I saw people saying, I didn't even know Metro was coming to Switch. I mean, the folks at Deep Silver, they put out trailers for both of those games. They announced it on Twitter, and I saw press releases issued. I saw sites report on it. I saw it on forums, and yet people weren't aware that this game was coming to Switch in 2 weeks, and they said they should have put it in a direct. And that scares me, that people are relying solely on a Nintendo Direct to get all of their Nintendo Switch news, because there's news almost every single day about a third party, even some first party games or an indie game. They're announced, they're shown, there's tons of coverage out there. Instead, people have blinders up and they're focused just on, when's that next direct going to come? I need to see the announcements in that direct, instead of what we used to do, you know, even 10 years ago. You went to IGN, you went to game forums, you went to GameSpot.com, and you looked at the news section, maybe, you know, during your lunch break, and maybe before the end of your day, to see if anything else came out. And you got all of your news in 2 or 3 visits. Now, that's not feasible today. There's just simply too much information being thrown from all corners at any given minute. But the fact that everyone just leans on the direct to get all of their information, all that means is you're getting 10% of, you know, you're getting 10% of real Switch news in that direct, and you're blocking out 90% of other releases simply because you have tunnel vision.
Yep.
And I don't know if there's a way to combat that. Because, I mean, not to hate on any YouTubers who do Nintendo news, but a lot of it is the same story being reported by all of them. And there's a lot more news going on any given day than even today. Everyone's going to talk about Animal Crossing either tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
But there other stuff happened today in the Nintendo world that you could report on. Like, I get you're going to chase the big stories, but that's Metro is a big release for Switch. Why did no one cover it? They covered it when it leaked on a retailer 6 months ago. Why didn't you cover it when it was officially announced? Nobody should have been completely unaware that game was coming to the platform.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're right. I mean, Metro is a big game for the Switch, and one that honestly I'm pretty excited to see come out for the system. But I mean, I think it just comes back to, people are so blinded by this 6 month, supposed, silence or whatever it is that Nintendo, is giving, people that are invested in getting a direct. But like I said, or like you said, at the end of the day, it's really just about, just hold on. There's so many good things out there, and you're right. There are a lot of cool announcements that have been made that people tend to kind of skim over, or they're not concerned with. It's got to be, well, I don't care about the third parties. I want to know what Nintendo's doing. I want to know what the first parties are working on. Give me some info on the first parties, and there's just no winning this thing at all. Honestly, I mean, I think it's really just right. At the end of the day, people are going to complain about what they complain about, and 6 months without a direct is obviously what people are getting upset about in 2020, unfortunately.
I mean, like, before anyone put a number to it, or even really said, the last general direct was in September, until someone mentioned that last week, I can honestly say I didn't really pay it any mind.
Absolutely, same thing.
Like, I didn't give that any thought. I wasn't sitting there saying, "Oh wow, it's been 6 months." I just sat there saying, "Well, Nintendo's, they're releasing Tokyo Mirage Sessions in January. We're looking forward to Animal Crossing. They've shown us Bravely Default 2, No More Heroes 3, Xenoblade Chronicles Remake with 2020 slapped at the end of their trailers. And we've seen third parties like Trails of Mana and stuff all day for 2020. I mean, Mana comes out in April?
Yep, it's not far away.
So it's not far away. And I've also been focused, on some other games coming out. Like, we have Doom Eternal coming out in March. We have Final Fantasy VII Remake coming out in April. I just kind of sat there and be like, hey, I got, 4 or 5 games I'm interested in coming out in the next 6 to 8 weeks. I'm not looking at the Switch's future lineup. I mean, The Last of Us 2 comes out in May. I forget the game's even coming out because it's 3 months away. I'm not thinking of it yet.
And that's probably going to be one of the contenders, at least for my game of the year, because I love the first one.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, I forget one of the biggest games of 2020 is coming out in, just 3 months. Or Resident Evil 3 is coming out in April. It was only announced in, December?
Yep.
It was a really quick turnaround. But I never once thought of, it's been 6 months of a direct, or that Nintendo's 2020 lineup is looking lackluster. Those thoughts never crossed my mind. And I mean, I don't know if it's just, I'm older. My focus for gaming isn't what it used to be, when I was younger, when I was 20. And, now I just have more priorities, I have more responsibilities. Or if it's just a matter of, what will be when it comes to a game announcement. I don't need to stress over when is Nintendo going to announce their June game. Because, I mean, it doesn't matter to me if they announce it on February 1st or they announce it on April 15th. The important thing at the end of the day is they announced it, and it was something that excited fans. And I don't know if people maybe did this, they can't remove themselves from an announcement or a situation anymore. Like, come Thursday, we're going to have a lot of people are going to complain that the Animal Crossing Direct was not what they wanted.
Absolutely. Absolutely right.
And like, why can't you be happy that a major game coming out next month just had a direct for the fans of that franchise? Like, why did it have to be catered to you specifically? Why can't it be for other people? Like, you don't have interest in the Animal Crossing franchise? That's fine. It wasn't for you. You don't have to go to Twitter or YouTube and make a video and saying, well, that was a waste of time. Like, no, it wasn't a waste of time. It was a waste of time to you personally. And you can say that in your video. To me personally, this was a waste of time. But I mean, that's just, if you're really going to do something like that, that's a cry for attention. And, you know, again, shift your energy elsewhere for something more constructive, because I mean, that's basically yelling into the void for no reason other than for attention.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, I guess the last thing that I'll say about this is, after analyzing Nintendo's, you know, patterns of directs over many years, I can confirm that the direct will happen whenever they damn well feel like it.
That is good analysis. If Nintendo damn well wants to air a direct, there will be a direct.
Absolutely.
That is probably the best way to end this episode. You heard it here first, folks. When the next direct will be when Nintendo damn well decides there will be one. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. When Nintendo says it will be, it will be. And I want to thank MVG again for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on, man. It's always been a pleasure.
And for everyone else, if you liked this video, give it a like. If you didn't, give it a dislike. Leave your comments in the comment section. Let us know your thoughts on the Nintendo Direct or lack thereof, and the obsession or hatred about there not being a Direct. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. There'll be a link to MVG's channel in the description below. And until next time, continue to embrace the hate.